On a quiet September morning, farmer Caleb Dawson walked into his cornfield expecting to inspect his crops before harvest. Instead, he heard something that stopped him cold. It wasn't the rustling of corn leaves. It wasn't a wounded animal. It was the unmistakable cry of a baby. At first, Caleb convinced himself he had imagined it. No one would leave a newborn in the middle of hundreds of acres of corn. It simply didn't make sense. But then the crying came again. Louder, closer, what Caleb discovered that morning would change not only his life, but the lives of an entire small town. And years later, one unexpected knock on his front door would reveal the heartbreaking truth behind that mysterious child. The sun had barely climbed over the horizon in rural Iowa, where endless rows of golden corn stretched farther than the eye could see. For 46-year-old Caleb Dawson, mornings always began the same way. Coffee before sunrise. A slow walk through the fields. Checking irrigation lines, making sure deer hadn't damaged the crops overnight. Life on Dawson Farm wasn't glamorous, but Caleb had never wanted glamour. After losing his wife Emily to cancer 8 years earlier, the farm had become more than his livelihood. It became his refuge. The silence of the fields hurt less than the silence inside an empty house. His only company was an aging border collie named Scout, who followed him faithfully from sunrise until dusk. Neighbors often encouraged Caleb to remarry. "You've still got plenty of life ahead of you," they'd tell him. He would smile politely, but deep inside, he believed some chapters only get written once. Children had never come for Caleb and Emily. Doctors tried, hope faded. Then illness arrived. After Emily passed away, Caleb buried himself in work because work didn't ask difficult questions. Corn needed planting. Tractors needed fixing. Life kept moving, even when his heart struggled to do the same. That September morning seemed no different. Scout ran a few feet ahead, sniffing the ground. Suddenly, the old dog froze. His ears stood upright. He let out a low whine. "What is it, boy?" Caleb asked. Scout darted between two rows of towering corn. Caleb followed, brushing aside broad green leaves. Then he heard it, a tiny cry. Weak, shaking, very real. His heart began pounding. The crying came from somewhere ahead. He pushed deeper into the field until he reached a small clearing where several stalks had been flattened. There, sitting inside a weathered wicker basket wrapped in a faded blue blanket, was a baby. Caleb couldn't breathe. The little boy couldn't have been more than a few days old. His tiny face was red from crying. His hands trembled from the chilly morning air. Next to him sat a nearly empty bottle and a folded note. Caleb's hands shook as he picked it up. The paper was damp with dew. Only 7 words were written across it. "Please love him. I can't keep him safe." Nothing else. No name, no explanation, no address. Caleb looked around the endless cornfield. "Hello?" he shouted. "If you're out there, come back." Only silence answered. The wind swept gently through the corn. Whoever had left the baby was already gone. Caleb carefully lifted the tiny child into his arms. The crying stopped almost instantly. The baby's little fingers wrapped around one of Caleb's rough, calloused hands. Something shifted inside him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. Hope Sheriff Tom Bennett arrived 20 minutes later with flashing lights bouncing across the field. He stared at the basket in disbelief. In 30 years, Tom muttered, "I've never seen anything like this." An ambulance checked the baby. Cold, hungry, but healthy. Deputies searched every road surrounding the farm. No abandoned vehicles. No footprints outside the field. No witnesses. Nothing. Local news spread the story by evening. People across Iowa watched the mysterious case unfold. Police asked if anyone recognized the blanket, the basket, the handwritten note. Days passed. Then weeks. No one came forward. Investigators searched missing person reports across several states. Hospitals checked birth records. DNA databases produced no answers. It was as though the child had appeared from nowhere. The town couldn't stop talking. Some believed a desperate mother had fled an abusive situation. Others whispered darker theories. Caleb ignored the rumors. He only cared about one thing: whether the little boy was safe. One afternoon, Child Protective Services asked Caleb a question he never expected. Would you be willing to foster him temporarily? Caleb blinked. Me? You found him. He's already comfortable with you. Caleb laughed nervously. I've never changed a diaper. The social worker smiled. Most parents haven't until they do. That night, Caleb sat alone in his kitchen. The baby's tiny crib had been placed beside the dining table. Scout slept beside it as though guarding the newest member of the family. The farmhouse didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive. Caleb looked at a framed photograph of Emily sitting on the windowsill. I wish you were here, he whispered. Then something extraordinary happened. The baby smiled in his sleep. It was small, brief, almost impossible to notice. But it was enough. For the first time since Emily died, Caleb smiled too. Little did he know, someone was watching the farmhouse from the tree line. Someone who knew exactly whose baby that was. And they were waiting for the right moment to return.